Hello, it's Tarantula. I keep coughing. Today I'm going to talk about this book, The Brown Recluse Spider by Richard S. Vetter, and I'm going to try not to cough. Here is Sonic, my mature male cyano Kumar Palma cyano pheasants. We're just seeing if he wants to go for a walk. So, hello my darling. This is a new type of experiment video. I don't know if I'm doing very well, but so the brown recluse is not relevant to this country because I'm in the UK, but they are in America, and there's a lot of hysteria about them in America, which Vetter tries to like get rid of with facts, but there's so much information in this book that's really interesting. So anyway, so he says, so the infamy of the spider and the misidentification of many harmless spiders as brown recluses have led to much confusion, mostly about their violin-shaped pattern on the cephalothorax. Non-arachnologists routinely see violins on many harmless spiders. So it's covering the violin hysteria. I just find this really interesting, even though they're not in the UK, because so they're called Loxosceles reclusa, which amuses me because it sounds like a triangle, isosceles. So that's how I remember it. But so obviously he said that people just see violins on all spiders, and they so the brown recluse is known for Loxoscelism, which is like necrotic skin damage, like when it gets systemic, I think. I'm not explaining this very well. I'm going to put references down below, but obviously he says it's, so here's a brown recluse, and he said like they have 6 eyes and they're arranged in like 3 sets, so that's like much more diagnostic of it being a brown recluse because not many spiders have that arrangement, but even that, it can go a bit wrong and everyone gets hysterical. So I think the problem is there's only certain areas in America, I'm not going to go through them all, that have brown recluse, including Missouri, if that's how you say it, which is relevant to a study that I'm going to mention later on. But there's some funny quotes in here. Hello, Masonic. Are you going to come out or not? He says, arachnologists in non-indigenous regions have received beetles, assassin bugs, camel spiders and pseudoscorpions from the public as potential brown recluse spiders. I don't know if that's because they smash them so fast that they're like, oh, it's got legs, it must be a brown recluse, because otherwise it's funny that people are thinking, oh look, this beetle is a brown recluse. I need to I keep making notes, but then I make so many notes and I need to remember not to like quote the whole book. I'll probably here quite a while. Where's my other notes? Where's the gun? And then I panic. So I might do another video on this, more organised, because this isn't very organised. Where are my notes? Oh yeah, so that's where they're in America, the region. Ooh, hello Masonic, you're coming out! So mature males, like, they like to wander to try and find a mate. So this is the only type of tarantulas I would get out if they volunteer. You coming, baby? But anyway, not to cause any panic, but there are rare cases where brown recluses kill, and it has been usually children, but it tends to be in the past, especially the actual treatment for it is worse than the bite itself, so it's hard to tell what's causing what. So although systemic effects are rare, resulting from fewer than 1% of recluse spider bites in North America, they occur more commonly in children and they can be fatal. So obviously that's a bit worrying when you've got kids, but even so, this other study actually by Vetter that Tarantula Kat mentioned. Hello, my darling. We do tappies. So they had an infestation of 2,055 brown recluse spiders, which they collected like over a period of time, and there were no envenomations, and this was in a Kansas home. So it explained, I can't remember who was living there. I think some children were living there. So it's most likely they're not going to come out and get you because they're very reclusive. So they're not going to come out and get you on purpose, but if you squish them, that's the only time they might bite. So if you accidentally like put your foot in a shoe and it's got one in. So I do find that quite surprising, even so, that they managed to not get bitten with that many, which proves his point that they're really not that dangerous. But it is a bit worrying that if you do get bitten, there's a rare. Some of the pictures in this book are funny. Anyway, so this is a woman who was bitten on the cheek by a male brown recluse in Kansas 33 hours before this picture was taken. She sustained only mild swellings and redness and experienced no necrosis. I love how happy she looks with a brown recluse bite. So that's obviously proving, well, and that's more of a normal, not even a normal, that's like a moderate reaction, which isn't even that bad. But they then show the most severe reaction you can have. So yeah, it's funny that this book is like trying to reassure you that they're not that dangerous, but obviously looking at the worst possible scenario, it's a bit worrying. So this is a 65-day progression of a verified brown recluse bite with extreme lesion development in a Missouri patient. Note that the bite victim is obese, which increases the negative effects of the bite because recluse venom has a dynamic detrimental effect on adipose tissue. Bites to thin or muscular people are much less dramatic, which I found surprising because, for example, like with alcohol, if you're a small person, it affects you. I'm not very good at the science of that, but it affects you more as a small person. So I assumed that maybe if you're a big person with lots of skin and cells, that maybe it would have less effect. But actually it's the opposite with this bite. It's if you're obese, then it can cause a lot more damage. Again, she didn't die or anything, but yes, so despite tales from the general public and on the internet, brown recluse bites do not result in amputation. These are likely to be the result of serious conditions such as group A streptococcus infections. So obviously, yeah, a lot of brown recluses have been blamed for infections, and in areas where they don't even have brown recluse, a lot of areas they don't have them. But there was a study that I found with a guy he was in Missouri, I think, so they mentioned the hospital he was. But anyway, which was it? Oh yeah, so I can't say this word, Clinicopathological course of acute kidney injury following brown recluse, Loxosceles reclusa envenomation. This is the first documented case of a renal biopsy in a patient with renal failure after envenomation by the brown recluse spider. So this man was 20 and he was healthy otherwise. But what is interesting with this study is they must know, it's very complicated, and they must know that the effects of it looked like a brown recluse bite, and he was in the area where there are lots of brown recluse. But they go into all this, but they also say, where did he say? Okay, so We elicited a history of him being bitten on his thigh while sleeping, which wakened him. This occurred one day prior to the onset of his symptomology. Can't say it. He did not, however, admit to seeing a spider. So, I'm like, how Richard Vetter did mention that you shouldn't assume. It's the first rule of not assuming spiders is if there was no evidence that there was no spider seen. But at the same time, I'm not sure if he means to only apply that where they're not usually, they're not endemic in that area. So yeah, I'm not explaining this very well, but I find it really fascinating, especially for kids, because obviously he's like, statistically, they're just not a danger at all, because I don't think recently, I think kids who have died in the past, it has been quite a way in the past, and they've had like treatment which was worse than the bite, which I mentioned. I can't remember if I can't find the quote. What other quotes did I want to do? Okay, I might go more into this in another video. So next one coming out. Anyway, bye bye.